Hey guys, King of Charm Manager here. Today I'll be your judge, your jury, and your analyst. And today I feature my top 5 teams for the Great League Remix. So I tried out a few things and it's really interesting. A lot of the bans are very minimal this time around. The only changes for episode episode 8 of the Great League Remix, because it's like the 4th time it's come back. The only changes were that Meganium and Toxicroak were unbanned, and then Sableye and Jellicent were banned. Now, those two are very powerful safe switches / leads or generalists across the board for Great League Remix, so them being banned makes some things a lot more safer, and you probably hate the bans because you liked Jellicent and Sableye. If you have them, they're really good in Great League as well as Great League Remix. If you don't have the teams I'm going to feature to you for my top 5 teams, don't worry, I'm going to put a budget team out there. I'm going to do a little bit of research though, because now that Greedent's out in the meta, it could be a little useful. But again, I'm going to do a little bit of research for this time around to see if it's going to do really well. It doesn't take me very long to put things together. Again, these teams worked for me. I did a little bit of studying. They worked pretty well. Got me more wins than losses, or worked really consistently. So I always say, please consider contributing PvPoke.com. Again, with Great League Remix this time around, the Poison type buff did make a huge difference, but the only Poison type you're probably going to see more is probably Nidoqueen. Other than that, the other Poison types aren't real. They're either too expensive or just they don't cover a lot, and there's a lot of counters to them. However, things like Shadow Beedrill can still be very powerful, etc., and they still have an impact. So if you want to use them, it's not a bad idea. Anyways, without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so for team number 1, I have Lapras, Lead, Mandibuzz, and Primeape. You can choose to use Ice Beam for Lapras, it's really up to you. Ice Beam will give you a little more coverage against Mandibuzz if you happen to see a Mandibuzz lead. And against other flyers. But it's really up to you. Like I said, if you get the Lapras Mirror with Skull Bash, it works out because whoever lands Skull Bash or wins CMPs wins. This will feature Air Slash Mandibuzz. The reason why I have Air Slash Mandibuzz is just to have a stronger safe switch against the fighters. Mandibuzz will be your safe switch this time around. And also, if you get the Mandibuzz Mirror, generally you want Air Slash versus Snarl because you don't want to play the Snarl game. And then we have Primeape to close out. With Primeape, you can use Close Combat in Night Slash, or you can use Ice Punch in Night Slash. Like I mentioned, it's really up to you. Close Combat does hit for neutral damage. Ice Punch will hit for super effective, but it costs less energy and you don't debuff yourself. So you have a little bit of play with how you want to use this team. Lapras is a very powerful lead because it beats a lot of general leads in the meta. It beats Diggersby. It could beat Mandibuzz. It's a very good lead against a lot of the general meta. And Primeape, you can replace Primeape with another fighter, but it's totally up to you. Mandibuzz is still a very powerful safe switch for the Great League Remix. It's probably going to drop off a little bit just because you won't be able to lock into Sableye and Jellicent a lot more, but Jellicent still had Ice Beam, so if you got Energy Lead with Jellicent, you could still take switch against the Mandibuzz. So it's kind of, it's good, but it's bad at the same. It's good / bad. As you see, this team is good across the board. Good coverage, bulk, safety, and consistency, and like I said, you have a lot of options to customize it. Does really great against the general meta. If you lose lead against things like Registeel, if you lose lead against things like Cresselia, or if you lose leads, or if you see a Machamp, you just say switch to the Mandibuzz, and then you hopefully win back switch, and then try to take back and try to realign accordingly. As you see, Primeape outside of the poison typings can do a lot of damage. Just be careful though, just because Machamp can give you a hard time, Frostus can give you a hard time, as well as a Charmer in the back will obviously end your life. However, Primeape is still very powerful in this meta and does really well. You probably saw a few in the last Great League Remix just because Night Slash is a great tool against Frostless, and if you boost, you're dead. Anyways, as you see here, outside of Flyers, this team does incredibly well. This is why Lapras having Ice Beam might be a little better, because you have a better option against Pidgeot. But if you look at the combinations you lose against, again, Lapras is a very powerful general lead. You'll lose lead with Lapras, safe switch into Mandibuzz, and then try to win back switch and then realign accordingly. pretty solid team across the board. There's not many teams out here that can give you like a high grade across just because of the way the typings go out. But this team is still really good, and if you love Primeape, this is a fantastic team. Alright, for team number 2, if you like Mantine, Mantine is a very powerful lead in this cup now. Fun fact, Mantine also walls Registeel, however, Registeel can still do a lot of damage if it can Flash Cannon Mantine to death, which I've done a few times. But this features Mantine lead. You can use Wing Attack if you want to, just so that you don't get hit by a Lapras as well. You can safe switch into your safe switch is Cresselia, and then you close out with Registeel. Obviously, Registeel is one of the most powerful closers in a Great League Remix, and then you have plenty of coverage, and with Mantine, you have debuff plays, etc. Very solid team, a hell of a lot of bulk, great coverage, safety, and consistency. As you see, this Mantine is a really great lead because it beats a whole ton of combinations. Like I mentioned, you can also use Wing Attack. With Wing Attack, you are able to like have a better matchup against anything that resists Bubble. However, there's also a trade-off to that because with Wing Attack, you can also lose against Registeel. In my opinion, Bubble's generally better just because of the fact that you can get a lot of energy, and if you get a Bubble through a charge move, it will get you that 11 energy can matter a lot in the long run. Very powerful team, and again, Mantine is a very strong lead now this time around with the new meta, etc. Also, Mantine does very well against Nidoqueen, which is why it really shot up the rankings, and against the entire meta, Mantine is actually pretty solid. Your only weakness with this team, well, actually, the interesting about this team is that there's nothing that really like hard. Outside of Mantine losing lead, like, there's not a lot of things that actually, like, destroy you, which is why this team has such a ton of bulk. Mantine takes neutral damage against grass types, and the only thing that would really give you a hard time is probably an electric type, but I don't see a lot of people having an XL Pachirisu, just putting that out there, or Zapdos. So, electric types can give you a hard time because Registeel can struggle against the heavy damage that electric types do put out. Also, electric types do resist Flash Cannon because electric resists steel, so electric types can give you a hard time. I don't see a lot of them coming to this meta, so you should be okay. But as you see here, this team's actually pretty solid because there's a lot of things you can do in Mantine, etc. Not a lot of things convincingly beat Mantine, like I said, outside of electric types. So very, very good team. You lose lead with Mantine, safe switch into Cresselia, and then realign accordingly. Registeel is still one of the most powerful closers in the game, so hopefully if you do get the closing scenario, you can blast or just Flash Cannon whatever you have with the giant trash can to death. Alright, next up, this isn't actually an old team I used. This is the last team I had for Great League Remix with Nidoqueen in it, and it actually does better this time around because of the fact that Jellicent and Sableye are banned. Ghost resist poison, so when you have two ghost types that are banned, that makes Nidoqueen a lot more powerful, which is why Nidoqueen is the most powerful lead in the Great League Remix as of right now. And as you see, this team is really solid. A ton of bulk, amazing consistency, great coverage, and safety. Your safe switch is Mandibuzz, and your closer is Registeel. Again, you can use Snarl or Air Slash, it's really up to you. But with this team, as you see, this team has some great coverage against a lot of the meta. If you play this team last time around, this team is arguably better this time around because, like I mentioned, with more ghost types being banned, you don't really have to worry about a lot of things in the lead. Nidoqueen does very well against a lot of combinations, which is why it's the #1 lead outside of getting trucked by ground types, of course. And with the extra ground typing, you're also weak to water types and ice types, which is why Dugong and Frostless love to see you in the lead. Of course, being a poison type, you do really well against Charmers. You also do really well against grass types. The great thing about Nidoqueen as well is you can with Nidoqueen, you can straight poison fang a lot of things to death. In the 2-shield, you can poison jab Obama to death, and you can poison jab Frostless to death. That's pretty nuts, just depending on how the match plays out. You lose lead with Nidoqueen, safe switch into Mandibuzz, and then you close out with Registeel. Pretty general, not super hard. Again, like I mentioned, if you look at the leads, outside of seeing a ground type, this team's actually very strong. And the problem, like, yes, it rates high, but ground types do have a strong overall matchup against this team just because Nidoqueen and Registeel can struggle heavily against those two combinations. I've still won against like Diggers, Bees, etc. just because Registeel can Focus Blast him to death. But again, it's going to be a little rough, but arguably this team is a lot better than the last time around, like I mentioned. Very solid team. Next up, we have Machamp lead, Frostless. This is a double safe switch team, so you could use Frostless or Hypno. Frostless is the main safe switch. Frostless is an incredibly powerful safe switch since Great League Remix started. The reason why it's so good is because it does a ton of damage, wins CMP against a lot of things, and with Expert Energy lead and with shields, it's really good. The Frostless 2 shield strat, which basically means if Frostless has energy or shield advantage, it can run through a lot of the meta just because, like I said, it does so much damage and you can use its ability to win CMP a lot. With Shadow Champ in the front, you can break a lot of shields. However, Shadow Champ can lose against things like Confusion users and Charmers. So that's why you have this like double safe switch conundrum. Hypno is very powerful, not being banned in the Great League Remix makes it it's a great generalist mon. And with more ghost types being banned, like, of course, Jellicent and Sableye, it's really good. Except for Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz can be a little hard on this team, so just be very, very aware. However, you can try to Thunder Punch to death and then farm down the Mandibuzz with Frostless and try to make some plays work. As you see here, this team doesn't have a ton of bulk simply because of literally because of Machamp. Machamp destroys your bulk rating no matter what you put it in. It's very, very strange. As you see, it does have great coverage, safety, and consistency. This team does a ton of damage, and I put it in here because I actually played it last season, did pretty well, and I used it for this season, and it was very interesting. Or not this season. Yeah, it was very interesting. I used it for about 2 sets, and I was like, this team's actually pretty decent. And with the new Poison type buff, like with more people using like Nidoqueen in the back or poison types in the back, you can, if you win the lead, you can lock in a poison type against Hypno, and it really sucks for your opponent. As you see, this team's very solid. Frostless 2 shield strats, break shield with Machamp, and then Frostless runs through everything. Of course, like I mentioned, Confusion users and Charmers can give you a hard time, so just be mindful of that. But generally, the strategy with this team, break shields, save shields, and energy lead for Frostless, and then Frostless goes to town. As you see, 644. The threat scores of all these teams are pretty low on the low side. I haven't found one that can go below 600 just because there isn't really a lot of combinations out there that will give you an, well, actually, I haven't found a rating. Even the one team I found with an A rating for amazing coverage was really bad. So I didn't put it on this list because it sacrifices literally the rest of them, and the meta just kind of doesn't work around it. Anyways, this team is very powerful though. If you do like Machamp and you like the Fire Lead and the Frostless 2 shield strat, this team is for you. And last but not least, this is my most powerful team. It's excessively expensive though. This is the team I used last season and when Great League Remix came out for the first time, and I haven't actually stopped using this team. It's very strong against the overall meta, and it does feature double safe switch, so it's a very, very solid team. This is Diggersby XL, Frostless, or Cresselia safe switch. Again, this is a double safe switch team. This team's very solid, a lot of bulk, a lot of damage, and it puts a lot of pressure on your opponent. An incredibly amazing bulk, amazingly safe, of course, because you're using two, double safe switch is incredibly powerful. Only a B for coverage and consistency, but again, great grades across the board. As you see here, this team absolutely loves seeing a Nidoqueen. So, if your opponent has one poison type, guess what? This whole team just wipes it from the face of the earth. So, you want to see a Nidoqueen with this team, or any poison type in general, just because a lot of this team does very well against all of them. As you see here, of course, you can lose against fighters with Diggersby, water types, etc. But despite that, Frostless and Cresselia do have are great play against whatever Diggersby's weak against. The general consensus is Frostless is your main safe switch, or if you feel like you want it, you could use the Frostless 2 shield strat with this team. Save shield, save energy, or get energy with Frostless, and then close out with Frostless having that huge advantage. Diggersby and Cresselia's charge moves run through very fast just because of having literally the most powerful energy generating fast moves in the game with Psycho Cut and Mudshot. So yeah, it's your opponent's gonna be like, pew pew, okay? Basically, you're just going to shoot your opponent to death with a ton of charge moves. The problem with this team is that Charizard can give you a bit of a hard time. Charizard is a pretty great budget pick for the Great League Remix just because of the fact that it's... Fire Spin Charizard's a pretty... Fire Spin or Dragon Breath is pretty baller, okay? Charizard and Blast Burn do a lot of damage, so you'd want to be very careful of that. Shiftry also does very well against this team just because of the fact it's able to pretty much wipe... It doesn't wipe it from the face of the earth, but you're going to have to do a lot of work to take out a Shiftry, as you see here. But outside of those two Pokemon, like I mentioned, you do very well, or you have a lot of play against the rest of the meta. You're not going to see a lot of Carnivines or Simichage. If you do see a Grassly like Meganium, again, you can just play it out, switch the Frostless, and then try to win back switch. And then Cresselia still has a great matchup against Meganium if you could get the debuff on Moonblast, or you could try to make something work. A lot of pressure, great grades, and a pretty medium threat score, or pretty general threat score. This team's done very well for me, and if you have all of these 3 mods, like I said, the only thing I don't like about it is it's really expensive. Diggersby and Cresselia take a lot of Stardust. And if you don't like this team, don't worry, I will have a budget team video out, so don't worry about it. And that's GG's. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. A lot of these teams were recycled from the previous seasons, so when I did a little bit of research and practiced them, I was like, wow, these things still work. Again, someone asked me about Pidgeot, and I'm like, okay, so here's the thing with the Great League Remix. Pidgeot, I'm not sure if it's unbanned, because last time I looked on social media, it was like, okay, they unbanned Pidgeot from Great League, but they didn't do it for GLR, which is freaking hilarious, by the way. Anyway, it's not like we trust Niantic to get everything right most of the time. You know what I mean? You know, it only took them a bajillion years. Well, not a bajillion years, but it shouldn't have taken them 3 weeks to put the stop radius back. And it's going to be really interesting to see what they have prepared for September 1st. I don't foresee a lot of things going on because, like you and me know, Go Battle League is still broken. They really neglect anything that doesn't make them a profit. Anyways, minus my opinion there, again, I will have budget teams out for the Great League Remix. Coming soon, very soon actually. I'll have it ready within this week. But I always do a little bit of research and make sure I do a little bit of mixing and matching just to make sure these teams are effective or will get you more W's than losses in Go Battle League. I've done this 6 times for 6 separate seasons to create top teams. And I'm still the only person to break open Master League, so Master League Classic. But yeah, it's a lot of work, and hopefully that does entice you guys to like and subscribe. Again, it really helps out the channel. For those of you currently subscribed, I really do appreciate you. If you aren't subscribed yet, you can easily subscribe by putting your mouse to the bottom right. A little sub tab will pop, and you can easily subscribe from there. Again, really appreciate my current subscribers. I will have the top teams out and more data out for Season 9 coming soon in the upcoming days. Hopefully you're doing well in Go Battle League for this current season. The early season is always fun. Good way to climb early, and a lot of no stress because you can't lose Elo. Anyways, good luck on your Go Battle League sets, and I will see you guys on the next video.